Hi everyone, welcome back to Eve Math Tutoring. Today's lesson is on the addition and subtraction of algebraic expressions. Now in a previous video I had covered like terms. In order to add in algebra you have to have like terms. Now I just want to cover something quickly. When talking about like terms I just want to do a quick review here. So if you have something like x and y, you know that those are not considered like terms. But if you have, x and 3x, those are considered like terms. If you have negative x squared and 5x squared, those are considered like terms. So I hadn't covered negatives in the previous video, so the negative does not affect whether they're like terms or not, kind of like how the numbers, the coefficients in front don't affect as well, okay? So if we had like the numbers 2 and 5, those would be considered like terms because they're both numbers. If we had wx and xw, those would be considered like terms. Wx squared and 6x double x squared w would be considered like terms, or just wx squared and 6wx squared could be written like that as well. Those are also considered like terms. So when you have more than one variable, the order in which they're being multiplied beside each other or written beside each other doesn't actually affect it, doesn't change it. And the only thing that matters is the power of each variable. So in this case, both of the x's have a square, and over here, the w's both have a power of 1 since nothing's written over here, okay? So if we had like x, y, z, and y, x, z, those would actually be considered like terms. And if one of them had a number in front, still considered like terms. Or if this one had a number, still, again, like terms, okay? So you're basically looking for, with like terms, is, are you dealing with, like in this case, these are numbers, but actually, if you think of these in algebraic terms, if there was an x to the 0 attached here, that would just be equal to 1, right? So these are just numbers, but when you're dealing with variables, you have to make sure that they are raised to the same power if it's just one variable, and it has to be the same variable. So in this case, you have the same variable. These two are different, so they're not considered like terms. You wouldn't be able to add or subtract these in mathematics or in algebra, okay? Now, if you have more than one variable and they're attached to each other, they can be written in any order. And again, you're going to look for the same variables in both, and again you're going to look for exponents. So because these both have, this has a w and an x, and this also has an x and a w, they're considered like terms. And in this case, again, you've got a w and an x squared, and over here you've got an x squared and a w. The order in which they're written does not matter. So multiplication, the order doesn't matter, okay? So, and then a number being attached in front of 1 does not mean that it's not like to this, because there's actually a 1 here. So if I was adding these two in algebra, I would be able to add them or subtract them, okay? So that's a little bit about like terms. Now if I had, say, 5 and x, I would not be able to add those, okay? This is a number, and it's like, you can imagine this as 5x to the 0, for example. If you imagined it that way, you'd understand why they're not like terms, and this is x to the 1. So if I rewrite this, it would be 5 and x. So that's why these two are not like terms, 5 and x, okay? That's just a little reason why that a number and say x would not be like terms, because you could imagine there being x to the 0 beside the 5, and that would make these not like terms, okay? So those are not like terms. So now that we have an idea of what like terms are, we can actually start adding and subtracting some algebraic expressions. Okay, now let's start off with a simple example. So say you're asked to simplify or add the following. So you get 7x plus 5x. Okay, so over here, these are like terms, so you would be able to add them. They both have x to the power of 1. So what you do is just add up the numbers and then just attach the x. So that would be the answer there. Okay, so we could try a different example. 8w plus 2w minus 4w minus w. Now, if there's nothing written in front of the variable, there's always a 1. Now, in this case, we see that these are all like terms. They all are w to the power of 1. So that means I could add all of these up. And what you're going to do is just add like normal numbers, but you're going to attach the variable to your answer, okay? So you're going to go x plus 2, 8 plus 2, which is 10, minus 4, which is 6, minus 1, which is 5, and then you have a w. Okay, so that's how you would add something like that. What if you had 9y minus 3y? Again, these are like terms. They both have y's attached, so I would just go ahead and subtract and attach the y. Now, what if we had an example where we had 2x minus 3y minus 5x plus 2 plus 2y? Okay, now in that case, 2x and 5x are like terms, and 3y and 2y are like terms. So what I usually do is I usually circle the like terms, you know, or I kind of box the ones that are similar to each other. So over here, I do go ahead and simplify the 2x and 5x. So I go 2x minus 5x, which is negative 3x, and then negative 3y plus 2y, which is minus 1y. So I just write down y as my answer. Okay, so when you're adding or simplifying something like this, if the question could say add, or it could say, most likely it may say simplify. If you're asked to simplify an expression like this, you're going to only add the like terms to one another and simplify them. Okay, so that's how you would do something like that. Now, if we had an example where we had decimals, like 4.21x plus 1.23x minus 3.11x, again, these are all like terms because they all have an x attached, x to the power of 1. So they're all like terms, so I could go ahead and add and subtract all of them. What I do, though, is I actually work this part out first. So I do the decimals. So when I do 4.21 plus 1.23 minus 3.11, I get 2.33. And then I just attach the x. So that would be my answer to that one there. Okay? What if we were given something a little bit more, with a little bit more different terms? So say we had 3x cubed plus 2x minus 5, and we were adding, say, x cubed minus 3x squared plus 7, and then we were subtracting 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 7. So this is all one thing. So assuming this is one line, okay? So in this case, if I want to simplify something like that, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at like terms first. So 3x cubed and x cubed and 2x cubed here are all like terms. And then this 2x goes with the 4x. And then this one here, 3x squared, goes with this one here. And then finally, the numbers go together. So those would be like terms, okay? So let's go ahead and start with the highest power first. So we're going to do the ones with the highest power. So in that case, that's x to the 3. So I've got 3x cubed plus 1. There's a 1 here if nothing's written. You always assume a 1. 3x cubed plus 1x cubed is 4x cubed minus 2x cubed is 2x cubed. Okay, then I do the x squares next. Negative 3x squared plus 3x squared, that gives me 0x squared, so I don't have to write down anything. And then I've got my x's, so positive 2x minus 4x, that gives us negative 2x. And then finally we do the numbers. So negative 5 plus 7 minus 7 is going to give me negative 5. So that's how I would simplify something like this. Okay. Now, say you were given the same question, but you had some of them in brackets, say. Okay, so say you had this part in brackets and this part in brackets. You're asked to subtract this part, which was all in brackets, plus 7. Okay, now in this case, you're asked to simplify. Okay, now in this case, actually let's take this to the next, we're going to take it to the next page here because we're going to need some more space. Okay, let's rewrite that again. So you're asked to simplify the following. So we don't actually need a bracket in front of the first one. So plus 2x minus 5 plus, okay, actually no, I'm going to go ahead and put brackets now. Plus x3 minus 3x squared plus 7, and then subtract 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 7. Okay, we were asked, say, to simplify something like this. Now, when you have brackets involved, you have to be careful. Now, if there's nothing in front of the bracket, or if there's just a positive, when you remove the brackets, everything stays the same. So if I remove these brackets, I'm going to get the same thing here. Now over here there's a plus, so that plus applies to everything inside of the brackets, but because it's a plus, it's not going to actually change the signs of whatever's inside the bracket. Now, however, when you have a negative, you have to bring that negative in to everything inside of your bracket. So what happens here is it becomes negative 2x cubed, and then negative times positive is negative 3x squared, negative times negative is positive 4x, and then negative times negative is positive 7. Okay, so now this here is different than the previous question we did, because in that one we didn't have a bracket here, so these were actually different signs. But if you do have brackets, you do have to remove them, and when you do, that negative is going to apply into each thing. And over here you see that you've got positive 2 and negative, so it becomes negative, and then over here you've got positive negative, so that becomes negative, and then over here you've got minus 4x, and here you've got negative, so that becomes positive, and over here you've got negative 7 and negative 7, which becomes positive. Okay, so once you do that, you remove all the brackets. Now you can start collecting like terms. So this is like with this and with this, and then this is like with this, this is like with this, and then the numbers are all like terms as well. So maybe we can do this. We can just do that in a circle there, the 4x's, and then the numbers are all like terms with each other. Okay, so 3x cubed minus 2x cubed is just going to give me, am I missing something here? Oh, sorry, there's an x cubed here, sorry. So 3x cubed plus x cubed is 4x cubed minus 2x cubed, which is 2x cubed. And then 3x squared, okay, so you have negative 3x squared minus 3x squared, so that's negative 6x squared. And then you have 2x plus 4x, which is 6x. And then finally you have negative 5 plus 7 plus another 7, so that's 14 with negative 5, which is going to be negative 9. So as you can see, we do get a different answer, and that's because of the brackets. Okay, so that's how you would simplify something like this example right here. Okay, so just looking over here, that looks good. 4 minus, yep, so that looks good. And just double checking here, negative 3x is negative 6x squared, 2x and 4x is 6x, and then 5, 7, 7, so that's good too. Okay, so that's how you would simplify something like that. So I was asked to simplify something like the following. 4y minus 2x plus 3z minus 7z plus 4x, so this is a different question here, 4x minus 6y. So in this case, again, we're looking for like terms, okay? There's no brackets, so I'm going to find like terms. So the y's are like terms, the x's are like terms, and then the z's go together. So 4y minus 6y is minus 2y, and then negative 2x plus 4x is positive 2x, and then 3z minus 7z is minus 4z, and that would be our final answer for that one. Okay, so let's try a few more examples. Let's try some where we have brackets. So simplify. So say you're given something like the following: negative x plus y minus x minus y. So what happens here is this negative goes into both whatever's inside the bracket. So whenever you remove the bracket, if there is a negative in front, it is going to change things. Now if there's a positive, everything stays the same, but if there's a negative, this here becomes negative x, and I'm negative because it's positive times negative, which is negative, and then over here we've got a positive, so negative and positive is going to give you negative y. This becomes negative x because positive and negative, and then two negatives here becomes positive y. Okay, so that's how you remove the brackets and bring the negative in. And then at this point you look at like terms. So negative x minus x is negative 2x, and negative y plus y is 0y. So you don't actually have to write that part in. Okay. Now if I was asked to simplify something like x plus y plus w minus z, okay, so simplifying something like this. Now in this case, again, when I remove the brackets, because there's nothing, no negative, it just stays x plus y. And then when I remove this bracket, it just stays the same. So this still stays positive, and this still stays negative. And the reason for that is positive w times positive w is positive w, and positive w times negative z is negative z, okay? And then at that point, you would see if you have any like terms. And in this case, none of these are like terms. So because none of them are like terms, you cannot add them. So that would be your final answer there. Okay? So let's try a few more examples. Okay, now let's try something with a little bit more complicated. So maybe something like the following. Okay, let's start with something like this first. So 2w minus 3x minus 2y in brackets minus w minus 4x plus 5y minus 3w minus 2x minus y. So say you're asked to simplify something like this. Simplify. Okay? So what you're going to do first is open up the bracket. So in this one there's a plus, so I just open it up and everything stays the same. Now in this case there's a negative, so that's going to come in here. So it's going to come minus w plus 4x minus 5y. Negative, this becomes positive, this becomes negative. Over here we've got another negative, so when I bring that into this, it's going to come into all three. So it's going to become negative 3w plus 2x and then plus y. Okay? So that's what we get there. So once we've opened up the brackets and we've dealt with the negatives, what we're going to do now is we're going to actually add up like terms. Now over here, just remembering that when you have a negative in front, it does change every sign inside to the opposite sign, basically. Okay, or if you have a positive, they stay the same. So now we're going to look at like terms. So w goes with w, and then x's go together, and then the y's go together. So 2w minus w is 1w minus 3w, so that's going to be negative 2w, and then negative 3x plus 4x is 1x, plus 2x is 3x, and then negative 2y minus 5y is negative 7y, plus y is negative 6y. Okay, so that would be your final answer for that one. Okay, we can try something a little bit more complicated. So let's try another example. Let's try the following. So simplify the following. 3x minus 2y plus 5z minus y plus 2, close bracket, plus 3 minus 7z. Okay. Now here we're asked to simplify something like this. So now when you're working in algebra, you do have to, when you're working with brackets, you have to work from the inside out. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify what's inside here. So we're going to remove the inner brackets first and then the outer brackets, okay? So let's do that. So 3x minus 2y plus 5z. So when I remove this bracket, the negative goes into both terms. Now this is a z as well. So this becomes minus y minus z, close brackets, plus 3 minus 7z. Okay, so now that I have that bracket removed, I can remove this one, but when I do that, I have to see here, now this is a negative. If this were a positive, these would all be just written in the exact same way, but because it's a negative, it's going to change the signs of everything inside of the bracket it applies to. So it's going to be 3x minus 2y minus 5z plus y plus z, and then plus 3 minus 7z. Okay, so now, and then at this point you just add up like terms. So 3x goes with, I don't see any other x's here. The y's go together, and then the z's go together, and then the number's also on its own. So I get 3x, negative 2y plus y is negative y, minus 7 is negative 8y. No, sorry, just one second here. Okay. So 3x, okay, now negative 2y plus y is going to be negative y. I don't see any other y there, so that's there. Now the z's, negative 5z plus z is negative 4z. Subtract 7z is going to give us negative 11z. Yep, that's correct. And then we just write in the 3. Okay, so that's how you would simplify something like that. So I'm just going to double check here. So that looks good. So when I remove the bracket, I brought the negatives in, plus, and then finally adding up like terms. Okay, 2, that becomes negative. Yeah, so that will be the answer there. Okay, let's try a few more examples. Now let's try this same question, but let's try if this was a positive, okay? So I'm going to do one like that for you. Okay, now let's do the same question, but assuming that it's plus. 2y plus 5z minus y, maybe we can make this a plus 2. Plus 2 plus 3 minus 7z. Okay, so the question is simplify. So if we look at this, now you're going to remove the brackets first. So again, you're going to work from the inner bracket. So 2y plus 5z. Now because there's a plus here, when I remove this bracket, it doesn't change anything. So those stay the same. So positive and positive, positive, positive and positive is a positive. So that's a z. Okay, now I want to remove the second bracket. And again, because this is positive, it doesn't change what's inside of the bracket. So those all stay positive. Okay. Okay. Now at this point, we can start adding like terms. So 2y goes with this, z goes with this, and then 3 is by itself. So 2y plus y is 3y. We have 3x, and then we have 5z plus z, so 6z minus 7z, so that's just minus 1z, and then plus 3. Okay, so that would be your answer for that one. So yeah, so we just wrote the 3y for this part, we wrote the 3x, and then the 5z. 6z minus 7z, so that's just 1z, and then finally the 3, so that one's good too. Okay, so let's try some more. Okay, want to do another one. Say you have to simplify the following. Okay, now say you're given this. Now in this case, you have to be careful here. So these two are definitely like terms, but this is also like because it's just written in a different order. And the b is raised to the power of 2 and the a is still to the power of 1. So this is still like with these. So when you're writing it, you're going to go ahead and do 6 minus 7, which is -1, plus 3, which is 2, and then you can decide how you want to write down this part. You can write it in b squared a or ab squared. Okay, so that would be your answer to that one. You can try another one, 6mn cubed plus 6mn squared plus 4mn plus 3n cubed m plus 5n squared m plus 7nn. Okay, now say you're given something like this and you're asked to simplify. So looking carefully here, these two are not like terms because this is n cubed and this is n squared. So right off the bat, you know these two aren't like terms. And then this is also not like to either of these because it has the n is only raised to the power of 1. Now if you look here, you've got an n cubed and an m, and you've got the same thing here. And the order, because the order of these doesn't matter, so this is actually like with this term. And then over here we've got n squared m, and same thing here. The order of the way they're written, the variables doesn't matter. So these two are like terms. And then we've got 4mn plus 7nn. So these two are actually like terms to one another because they both have the same exponents for their variables, and even though they're written in a different order, it doesn't matter. And say we had two numbers attached. Say we had 3 plus 7 or something as well, okay, to this question. Well, then the 3 and the 7 are not like with any of these, but they are like to each other because they're just a number with variables maybe to the power of 0 attached to them, okay? So that would be our question. So if we want to simplify that, say, we can go ahead and start simplifying now. So 6mn cubed and 3mn cubed m are like terms, so I would do 9, and I can write it in any order. Okay, so I could write like the first one, or I could write n cubed n, plus 6mn squared plus 5n squared m is equal to 11mn squared. Or I could have written it as 11nm n squared m. And then finally 4mn plus 7nm is equal to 11, and then you can either write it as mn or nm. So I'm just going to go in the same order I've been going. And then finally we would add the numbers, so that would just be 10. Okay, so that's how you would simplify something like that. Okay, let's try a few more examples. I'm going to do a few more examples here. So say we have the following. So you're asked to simplify 72ax 4 minus 8ay cubed minus 38ax 4 minus 3ay4 plus 7ay3 plus 8 plus 12ay4 minus 6ay cubed plus 12. Okay, so you're asked to simplify something like this. Now, first thing I have to do is figure out what my like terms are. So these two are definitely like to each other. Do I have any other ax4s? No, I don't. And then ay cubed, those two go together. And then the ay to the power 4s go together with each other. The numbers are like terms. And then this one here, that also goes with these two, so that can get a square around it. Okay, so first thing you want to do is identify all your like terms. So here I've got 72ax to the 4 minus 38ax to the 4. So 72, 38, what do we get here? We get 12 minus 8, which is 4, so 34. Okay, so I'm just going to cross that out there. So 34. So we get that for that part, and then now we're looking at maybe these ones. Negative 3ay4 plus 12ay4 is going to give us plus 9ay4. Okay, so that part's done. And you can even cross them out. I mean, if that helps you simplify once you're done adding them up. So then you have negative 8ay cubed plus 7ay cubed, so that's negative 8. Negative 1ay cubed minus 6, so that's negative 7ay cubed. And then you would just add up your numbers, so that would be 20. Okay, so that's how you would simplify something like that. Okay, let's try another example. Let's try adding the following. 14x plus y minus 17y plus z. I'm going to add it to 4y plus z minus 19z plus x. And I'm going to subtract 7z plus x minus 3x plus y. Okay, here's the question. Simplify the following. Okay, so first thing you want to do is open up the brackets. When you do that, if you have a number in front, you have to bring that number into both, just like how you have to bring in a positive or a negative. So this here becomes 14x plus 14y. Now over here, you've got 17, so you're going to bring that in to both as well. So that becomes negative 17y. And here you've got negative 17z. So you bring the 17 into both. Over here you've got 4y, so plus 4y, and then 4z, so plus 4z. And then over here you've got negative 19z, and then you bring that in and it becomes negative 19x. So over here and continuing on, so negative 7z, and then the negative 7 applies there. And here this becomes negative 3x, and then finally negative 3y. Now we are going to be doing, you will be getting examples where you're going to have variables as well, and you're going to start multiplying the variables in, but I will do a lesson on that of more complicated examples of addition and subtraction, so that will be part 2 of this lesson where I multiply variables. Before I do that, I do want to do another lesson on the rules of multiplying variables in algebra. Okay, so we will have a part 2 to this lesson. So for now, let's stick to just simpler type examples, but I will do one where I have more complicated examples where I have variables attached here, and maybe if you've got different powers of variables or more than one variable in here, etc. Okay, so now let's go ahead and simplify this. So now we just add up like terms. So x, x, and x, and x. So let's deal with those first. 14x minus 19x is going to be negative 5x. Minus 7 is negative 12, so that's going to be negative 15x. And once I'm done, I could just cross them out. Then I'm going to do the y's. So y, y, y. and y. So 14y minus 17y is negative 3y, plus 4y is positive 1y, minus 3y is negative 2y. Now we're going to do the z's. Negative 17z, okay, now negative 17z minus 19z. So let me just see here, 17 and 19. If I were to actually add those, I would get 36. So that's negative 36z, negative 17, negative 36z minus another 7z. So you're going more negative, so that becomes negative 43z. Okay, so that's the answer there. So negative 19z, yep, so that's negative 36, and subtract 7 is negative 43z. So that would be the answer there, okay? So that would be the answer to something like that. Just ignore this part here. That's not part of your solution, okay? Let's do a few more examples. Let's do some examples where we've got more brackets involved. So say you have something like simplify the following. And you've got 2a plus, and then in bracket here you've got negative 6b minus 3c, maybe this type of bracket, 3c plus negative 4b minus 6c plus a, close bracket, and closed, and find closed like that. Okay, now we're dealing with a whole bunch of brackets here, so always working from the inside out. So what you're going to do is you're going to write this out first. Now you're going to do this in their bracket first. Because this is a plus and it comes into all of these, whenever you remove the bracket, you have to bring whatever's in front of it. So this is a +1 here, it's not written down. You have to bring that into all. So you're really multiplying each of them by +1, which doesn't change them. So this actually here is going to be negative 4b, and then positive and a negative is negative 6c, and positive is positive a. Okay, so now we remove the smaller brackets first. Next step, negative 6b. Now once you open up the second bracket, this negative goes into all of these, so it becomes negative 3c plus 4b plus 6c and minus a, and close that up. Okay, so that negative came in here, 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 and here. Okay, so now we're going to open up these brackets, and because there's a plus in front, everything just stays the same. So positive and negative is negative 6b, positive and negative, negative 3c, positive is 4b, positive is 6c, and then positive and negative is negative a. Okay, now that I'm opened up all my brackets and dealt with positives and negatives, now what I can do is collect like terms. So this becomes, those are like terms, these are like terms, and then the a's go together. So 2a minus a is just 1a, and we don't have to write the 1. Negative 6b plus 4b is negative 2b, and negative 3c plus 6c is positive 3c. So that would be your answer for that one there. Okay. I'm going to do one more with brackets. Let's do this example here. Simplify 4a minus negative 7a minus 8a minus 5a plus 3, close bracket, minus negative 6a minus 2a minus 9, and then we're going to close those brackets. Okay, now, if you notice, I've got two square brackets, so that must mean that these two are matched to each other. Okay, and then I've got another set in here. And then within those, I have smaller brackets, and then I've got these brackets. So you have to be careful here. Like if you have just a random bracket attached to this one, it's got to be attached to something else in here. Now these two close each other off, so this one closes this one off. Okay, so you're looking for matching brackets. Which one closes each other? So to simplify something like this, now this could be written in one line. I just written down low a little bit here. So what you're going to do again is you're going to start from the inside out. Okay, so let's start simplifying some brackets, working from the inside out. I'm going to start with the inner brackets first. I'm going to start with the little round brackets first. So I'm going to keep this for now, negative 7a minus, and I'm going to keep the other square bracket, 8a. Now I'm going to deal with this part first. So this negative 1 is going to multiply into here, and it's going to become negative 5a minus 3. So that's over here. Okay, so positive and positive is positive, positive and negative is negative. So then we close off the square bracket. Now we've got another round bracket which we can deal with. When opening up this round bracket here, this negative is going to apply into everything. So negative and negative is going to give me positive 6a. Negative and negative there is going to give positive 2a, and then negative and negative is going to give positive 9. And now that I've eliminated the round bracket there, I can go ahead and write in this other square bracket and finally write in the outer bracket. Okay? Now at this point, we're going to simplify, we're going to open up these brackets. We're going to get rid of those brackets. So 4a minus a minus negative 7a. Now when this goes in here, these all become negative. So this becomes negative 8a. Sorry, the negative 1 applies to everything. So this here becomes positive 5a. Negative and negative, positive 3. Okay, so I open that up. And then the rest I could just write down as they're written. Okay, so that would be the next step in this question. I'll try to write a little bit small here. So now what we can do is we can open up the square brackets, but if you look carefully, you've got a negative 1 in front of it. So that negative applies to everything that's inside of the bracket, okay, when you're working something like this out. So this becomes 4a minus a, and then this here becomes positive 7a, the negative and the negative become positive 8a, the negative and the negative here, minus 5a, negative 3, negative 6a, negative and positive, negative 2a, negative 1 times positive 9 is negative 9. And we can write the external brackets. Okay, and an easy way to remember is if you have a negative, it just changes, negative 1, it just changes every sign to the opposite of whatever you have, okay? So now we're going to remove this bracket, but when we do that, now this negative, if this were a positive, I would just take out the brackets and write everything the same, because positive 1 times anything is just the same thing. But because it's a negative 1, I have to multiply each thing by negative 1. If this were a negative 2, I would multiply each term by negative 2. Okay, so in this case it's negative 1. There's no 1 there, but we assume a 1. And this negative applies into everything. So this negative is going to apply to every single thing inside of the brackets. And you could, if you want, you could simplify. I mean, we could have simplified. There's other ways to do this. I mean, this is just one method. You could have simplified the like terms within the brackets first. I mean, at this step, we could have maybe, simplified these two and then did the brackets. But it's up to you how you want to solve it. I mean, there's more than one way to get the correct answer in these types of mathematics questions. My method is just to first open up the brackets and then I collect like terms, but you can start collecting like terms even in this step over here, or you could start simplifying in there if you want as well, okay, as long as you don't get confused. So now we have 4a, so 4a minus 7a minus 8a plus 5a plus 3 plus 6a plus 2a and finally plus 9. So at this point, you're just going to add your a's and your numbers. So this here is going to equal, so the like term, so 4a plus 1a plus minus 7a minus 8a plus 5 plus 6 plus 2. All right, so 4, okay, here we go. 4 minus 1 is 3, minus 7 is negative 4, minus 8 is negative 12, plus 5 is negative 7, plus 6 is negative 1, plus 2 is just a. And then the numbers, 3 and 9, so that's just a plus 12. So that's our final answer. Okay. And we could have reached that answer in a different way. We could have started simplifying in this step and maybe simplified here and then opened up the brackets, or you could have just done it in this way. As long as you get the right answer in the end, you know, it's up to you how you want to actually solve the question. Okay, so the final answer there for that question would be a plus 12. Now, before I get into more complicated examples where we start, say you had in this example a 3a here or something, and you started multiplying that in. Before I start doing examples like that, I am going to do a lesson on multiplying variables and in algebra. And once we do that lesson, after that I'm going to do a part 2 addition to addition and subtraction of algebraic expressions. Okay, so I hope this makes you understand algebraic expressions and how to add them. It's important to really just watch out for the little details. One little plus or minus can throw off the whole question, and it usually takes a lot of practice, and you want to try different questions. And if you have questions that you're not sure about, go ahead and post them on the channel page and I can do a video on them as well. Okay, so I hope that helped clarify how to add and subtract algebraic expressions. So like I said, this is part 1, and I will be having a part 2 to this lesson with more complicated examples that have more than one variable and have examples where we have, say a, y, or we have multiple variables and we're multiplying them out as well. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the lesson.